Something isn't right. Have you ever walked into a room and caught a strange, unexplainable smell, sweet but rotten, smoky with no fire, or like something ancient lingering in the air? Most people ignore it, but what if that scent isn't random at all? What if it's a warning? For centuries, people across cultures have whispered about certain smells that appear just before something dark reveals itself, signs that a witch or something far more sinister is close by. In this video, we're uncovering 7 creepy smells that many believe are not just coincidences but signals that you are not alone. Pay close attention, because once you recognize these scents, you may start noticing things you wish you hadn't. There's something deeply unsettling about a smell that appears out of nowhere, no source, no explanation, just suddenly there. You walk into a room you've been in 100 times before, and everything feels normal until it doesn't. Maybe it starts subtly, like a faint trace of something unfamiliar. You pause, sniff the air again, and it grows stronger. But when you look around, nothing has changed. No garbage, no food left out, no burning wires, no perfume. Nothing that should explain what you're sensing, and yet the smell lingers, almost as if it's trying to get your attention. What makes this experience so unsettling isn't just the smell itself, it's the complete lack of a logical source. Our brains are wired to connect scents with causes. Smoke means fire, sweetness means flowers or food, rot means decay. But when that connection is broken, when your senses pick up something your environment cannot justify, it creates a quiet kind of fear. You begin to question not just the room around you, but your own perception. Did I imagine that? You might ask yourself. But then it happens again, and this time it's stronger. People who've experienced this often describe it as a moment that freezes them in place. It's not overwhelming at first, it's confusing. You might check the kitchen, open windows, look behind furniture, even step outside and come back in just to see if the smell follows you. And sometimes it does. That's when confusion starts to turn into unease, because a smell that shouldn't exist and refuses to leave feels personal, like it's attached to you rather than the space. There's also something strange about how these smells behave. They don't always linger in a predictable way. Instead, they come and go, fading just when you try to track them, then returning when your guard is down. You might catch it strongest in corners, near doorways, or in rooms where you feel the least comfortable. And even more unsettling, some people report that others around them don't notice anything at all. You ask, "Can you smell that?" And they look at you blankly. That moment when your experience isn't shared can feel isolating, like you've stepped into something unseen that others can't access. What truly makes these unexplained smells disturbing is the way they affect your instincts. Long before you can explain what's happening, your body reacts. Your heart rate might pick up slightly. You feel a tension in your chest, a subtle alertness, like something isn't right. It's the same instinct that tells you when you're being watched or when you're not alone in a quiet place. Except this time the only evidence is a scent that shouldn't exist. And here's where it gets even more chilling. These smells don't always feel neutral. Sometimes they carry a certain weight, an emotional tone that's hard to describe. A smell might feel off, not just chemically, but almost intentionally wrong. It can feel heavy, intrusive, like it doesn't belong in your space. And even after it fades, the feeling stays. The room doesn't feel the same anymore. You might find yourself avoiding that area, turning on lights, or distracting yourself just to shake the unease. Over time, if it happens more than once, you start noticing patterns. Maybe it always appears at a certain time of day, or in a specific spot. Maybe it comes when you're alone, or when everything is unusually quiet, and without realizing it, you begin to anticipate it. That anticipation is what makes it creep under your skin, not just the smell, but the waiting for it to return. At its core, an unexplained smell with no source challenges your sense of control. It reminds you that not everything can be seen, traced, or understood. And whether there's a logical explanation or not, the experience itself feels real. It stays with you, because it's not just about what you smelled. It's about the moment you realize that something in your environment didn't behave the way it should. And once that thought enters your mind, it's very hard to ignore. There's a particular kind of smell that feels almost deceptive the moment you notice it. A scent that starts off strangely pleasant, maybe even inviting, but quickly turns into something rotten, sour, or deeply unsettling. It's not the kind of odor you can easily define. At first, it might remind you of flowers, something sugary, or a faint sweetness in the air, but then, almost without warning, that same scent shifts. It becomes heavier, spoiled, like something that once was good but has gone terribly wrong. And that sudden change is what makes it so disturbing. You don't expect sweetness to feel threatening. Sweet smells are usually comforting, associated with fresh blooms, desserts, or clean spaces. They're supposed to put you at ease. But when that sweetness carries an undertone of decay, it confuses your senses. Your brain tries to categorize it, to make sense of it, but it can't fully land on an answer. Is it something expired, something hidden, something you missed? That confusion creates tension, because now you're not just noticing a smell, you're trying to understand why it feels so wrong. People who've encountered this kind of scent often describe it as sickly sweet. It clings to the air in a way that feels unnatural, almost thick, like it's hanging there rather than drifting normally. You might inhale once and catch the sweetness, then again, and notice the rot beneath it. And once you detect that second layer, it's impossible to ignore. It's like discovering something hidden behind a mask. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Naturally, your first reaction is to look for a source. Maybe there's spoiled food somewhere, something left out too long. You check the kitchen, open containers, look in the trash, scan every corner where something might have gone bad. But nothing matches the smell. There's no clear origin, no object you can point to and say, that's it. And that's when the unease begins to deepen, because a smell that suggests decay without any visible cause feels out of place, almost like it doesn't belong to the physical space at all. What's even more unsettling is how unpredictable this scent can be. It doesn't always stay consistent. Sometimes it fades just as you're trying to locate it, leaving you standing there questioning whether it was ever real. Then, minutes or even hours later, it returns, just as strong, sometimes stronger. That pattern of appearing and disappearing makes it feel less like a random occurrence and more like something deliberate, even though you can't prove it. There's also an emotional response tied to this kind of smell that people don't always expect. It's not just unpleasant, it feels intrusive. It can make you uncomfortable in your own space, like something has entered your environment without permission. You might find yourself opening windows, spraying air freshener, trying to push it away. But even when you do, the feeling lingers. Because it's not just about the scent, it's about the way it disrupts your sense of normalcy. Another strange detail people often mention is how personal the experience feels. Others around you might not notice it at all. You might ask someone nearby, "Do you smell that?" And they'll say, "No, everything seems fine to them." That moment can be unsettling in a different way. It isolates you. It makes you wonder if it's in your head or if you're the only one picking up on something that others can't perceive. And that gap between your experience and theirs only adds to the discomfort. Over time, if this kind of smell appears more than once, it starts to leave an impression. You begin to associate it with a feeling, a quiet sense of dread or alertness that creeps in before you even fully register the scent. It's like your body remembers before your mind does. You walk into a space and something feels off, and then seconds later, that same sweet but rotten smell returns. That connection between the scent and your instinct makes it harder to dismiss as coincidence. At its core, this kind of smell unsettles people because it blurs the line between something familiar and something wrong. Sweetness is supposed to comfort while decay is supposed to warn. But when both exist together in the same breath, it creates a contradiction your mind struggles to resolve. And it's that unresolved feeling, that sense that something isn't quite right but can't be clearly explained, that lingers long after the smell itself has faded. There's something instantly alarming about the smell of something burning. It's one of those scents your body reacts to before your mind even catches up. The moment it hits your nose, sharp, dry, smoky, you feel a jolt of urgency. Your instincts kick in. Something's wrong. You start scanning your surroundings, looking for any sign of danger. A wire overheating, food left on the stove, something catching fire. Because normally that smell always means one thing. There's a source and it needs attention. But what happens when that source simply doesn't exist? It usually begins suddenly. You're going about your day, maybe sitting quietly, maybe walking into a familiar room, and then it's there, the unmistakable scent of smoke. Not faint enough to ignore, but not overwhelming either. just strong enough to make you stop. You might take another breath to confirm it, and yes, it's real. That dry, slightly bitter smell, like something has been burning nearby. And immediately your mind goes into problem-solving mode. You check the kitchen, glance at outlets, look around for anything that could explain it, but there's nothing. No smoke in the air, no heat, no visible sign of anything burning. Everything looks exactly as it should, and yet the smell lingers as if it's coming from somewhere just out of reach. That's the moment when concern slowly shifts into confusion, because your senses are telling you one thing, but your environment is telling you another. And when those two don't match, it creates a quiet kind of tension that's hard to shake. What makes this experience particularly unsettling is how convincing the smell is. It's not vague or questionable, it's specific. It smells like something is actively burning, like there should be smoke curling somewhere nearby. Your body reacts accordingly. You might feel slightly on edge, more alert, your senses heightened. You listen more closely, look more carefully, trying to detect something you might have missed. But no matter how much you search, there's no clear explanation. And then just as suddenly as it appeared, it starts to fade. That's when things get even stranger, because now you're left with the memory of something that felt urgent, something that demanded attention, and yet it vanished without leaving any trace. No residue, no damage, no lingering heat, just the fading echo of a smell that shouldn't have been there in the first place. And in its absence, you're left questioning the moment itself. Was it real? Did I imagine it? But deep down, you know what you smelled. For some people, this isn't a one-time experience. It happens again, maybe in the same place, maybe somewhere else entirely. The smell returns, just as sharp, just as convincing, and once again, there's no visible source. That repetition is what starts to make it feel less like coincidence and more like something you can't quite explain. You begin to anticipate it, even if you don't want to. A quiet awareness forms in the back of your mind. What if it happens again? There's also something about the nature of this smell that feels intrusive. Unlike a normal scent that belongs to a specific object or area, this one doesn't seem anchored. It can feel like it's coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You might move around the room trying to pinpoint it, but it doesn't behave the way a typical smell should. It doesn't grow stronger as you get closer to a source, because there is no source. It just exists, hovering in your space for a moment before disappearing again. Another layer to this experience is how isolating it can feel. You might ask someone nearby, "Do you smell smoke?" and they'll say, "No, everything seems fine." That response, while reassuring on one level, can make the experience feel even more unsettling on another. Because now it's not just an unexplained smell, it's an experience that only you seem to be having. And that disconnect can make you question your own perception, even when the memory of the smell is clear and undeniable. Over time, what lingers isn't just the scent itself, but the feeling it leaves behind. The momentary alertness, the search for a cause, the confusion when none is found, it all stays with you. The next time you catch even the faintest hint of something similar, your body reacts faster, your senses sharpen again, almost expecting the same unexplained pattern to repeat. At its core, the smell of something burning without a source unsettles people because it disrupts a very basic understanding of cause and effect. Fire creates smoke. Smoke has a smell. That sequence is something we trust. But when the smell appears without the fire, it breaks that chain in a way that feels deeply unnatural. And even if you eventually move on from the moment, a part of your mind holds onto it because it was real enough to feel urgent, but empty enough to leave you without answers. There's a certain kind of scent that doesn't just sit in the air. It feels like it enters the space with intention. A strong herbal or unusually intense perfume-like smell can be one of those. It doesn't drift in gently or fade naturally like most everyday scents. Instead, it arrives suddenly, fully formed, as if someone just sprayed something powerful right beside you. The first thing you notice is how concentrated it is. Sharp, distinct, almost overwhelming. And yet, when you look around, there's no one there, nothing recently used, nothing that should be producing it. At first, your brain tries to label it. Maybe it smells like crushed herbs, something earthy and green like leaves or oils, or maybe it leans more toward a heavy perfume, floral, musky, almost too rich. Either way, it doesn't feel subtle. It's the kind of scent that demands attention, the kind you can't ignore even if you try. You instinctively start searching for a source. Did someone walk by? Did you accidentally spill something? Is there a bottle open somewhere? but the longer you look, the clearer it becomes. There's no obvious explanation. What makes this experience unsettling isn't just the strength of the smell, it's how out of place it feels. Strong scents like these usually come with context. You expect to see incense burning, oils diffusing, or someone nearby wearing a noticeable fragrance. But when that context is missing, the scent begins to feel disconnected from reality. It's like hearing a loud voice in an empty room. The intensity suggests something close, something present, but there's nothing there to match it. People who've experienced this often describe the scent as lingering in a strange way. It doesn't spread evenly or fade predictably. Instead, it can feel concentrated in certain areas, near a doorway, a corner, or a specific spot in the room. You might step closer, expecting to find something, but the smell doesn't behave like it should. It doesn't grow stronger or weaker in a logical pattern. It just stays steady, almost fixed in place, as if it's tied to something you can't see. There's also something about the quality of the scent that can feel unusually sharp or unnatural. Even if it resembles something familiar like herbs or perfume, it often carries a slight edge, something that doesn't quite match what you know. It might be too intense, too pure, or oddly mixed, like multiple scents layered together in a way that doesn't quite make sense. That subtle mismatch is what creates discomfort. It's familiar enough to recognize, but different enough to feel wrong. Another detail that stands out is how suddenly it can disappear. One moment the scent is strong and unmistakable, filling your senses completely, and then without warning it's gone. Not gradually fading like a normal smell would, but simply gone, as if it was never there. That abrupt shift can leave you standing still, almost waiting for it to return because it feels incomplete, like something started but didn't finish. For many people, the most unsettling part is how personal the experience feels. You might be the only one who notices it. Others in the same space may not smell anything at all, even when the scent feels overpowering to you. That disconnect creates a strange kind of isolation. You know what you're experiencing is real to you, but without anyone else sensing it, there's no confirmation. It becomes something you carry alone, something you can't fully explain or share. Over time, if it happens more than once, you begin to associate that scent with a certain feeling. It's not just about the smell anymore. It's about what comes with it. A slight tension, a heightened awareness, a sense that something in your environment has shifted, even if everything looks the same. You might find yourself pausing more often, paying closer attention to your surroundings, almost expecting that scent to return. And when it does, it doesn't feel random anymore. It feels connected, whether to a place, a moment, or even a state of mind. You start noticing patterns even if you can't fully define them. Maybe it appears when you're alone or when things are unusually quiet. Maybe it shows up in the same spot each time. Those small consistencies make it harder to dismiss as coincidence, even if you don't jump to any conclusions. At its core, a strong herbal or perfume-like scent without a source unsettles people because it carries presence. It feels like something should be there creating it. Scent is one of the most immediate and intimate senses. It doesn't just stay at a distance, it enters your body with every breath. So when a smell this strong appears without explanation, it feels intrusive, almost personal. And even after it fades, the impression it leaves behind doesn't disappear as quickly because it's not just about what you smelled, it's about the moment you realize that something in your space didn't behave the way it was supposed to. There's something especially unsettling about a smell that doesn't just appear once, but keeps coming back again and again in the exact same place. At first, you might brush it off. Maybe you notice it one day, pause for a moment, and then move on. But when it returns, and then returns again, always in that same spot, it starts to feel different. It stops being a random occurrence and begins to feel like a pattern. And patterns, especially the ones you can't explain, have a way of getting under your skin. It usually starts subtly. You walk past a certain corner of your home or step into a specific room, and there it is, that strange, unexplainable scent. Maybe it's faint at first, barely noticeable unless you're paying attention. You might even ignore it, assuming it's something temporary. But then the next day or a few days later, you pass through that same spot again, and the smell is back. Same tone, same intensity, same strange presence. That's when you start to take it seriously. Naturally, you try to find a cause. You inspect the area more closely this time. You look under furniture, check behind walls if you can, search for anything that could be producing the smell. You clean, you air out the space, maybe even use sprays or fresheners to mask it. And for a while, it seems like it's gone. The air feels normal again. The space feels like yours, but then without warning, it returns, almost as if nothing you did made any difference at all. What makes this experience particularly disturbing is the consistency. It's not just that the smell comes back, it's that it comes back in the same place, almost like it's tied to that exact spot. You might stand there trying to understand it, moving slightly to the left or right to see if it changes, but the scent feels anchored, like it has a boundary. Step into it and you notice it immediately. Step out and it fades. That kind of behavior doesn't match how normal smells work, and that's what makes it feel so unnatural. Over time, you start to anticipate it. Before you even reach that spot, there's a part of your mind that wonders, is it going to be there again? And sometimes you'll feel that subtle tension before the scent even hits you, like your body remembers what your mind is about to confirm. When the smell does appear, it's no longer surprising. It's expected, but no less unsettling. In fact, the familiarity can make it worse, because now it feels like something persistent, something that isn't just passing through. There's also something about repetition that makes an experience feel more personal. A one-time event can be dismissed as coincidence, a fluke, something easily explained away. But when something repeats itself in a consistent way, especially in your own space, it begins to feel like it's connected to you or your environment in a deeper way. You might not have an explanation, but the pattern itself becomes undeniable. Another layer to this is how it can affect your behavior. You might start avoiding that area even if you don't consciously realize it at first, or you might move through it more quickly, holding your breath slightly just in case the smell is there. You may even find yourself checking it deliberately, almost testing whether it's going to happen again. That shift from passive noticing to active awareness is what shows how much the experience has settled into your mind. What's interesting is that these recurring smells don't always behave the same way every time. Sometimes they're stronger, sometimes weaker, but they carry the same distinct quality that makes them recognizable. It's like hearing the same note played over and over, even if the volume changes. You know it's the same thing, and that recognition is what ties each experience together. And just like with the other unexplained scents, this one can feel isolating. Others might not notice anything unusual about that spot. You might point it out, ask someone to stand there and see if they smell it too, but often they don't. To them, it's just a normal part of the room. That difference in perception can make the experience feel even more personal, like it exists only for you within your awareness. At its core, a smell that appears repeatedly in the same place unsettles people because it introduces a sense of permanence to something that shouldn't be there at all. Smells are supposed to come and go, tied to clear sources and temporary conditions. But when one returns over and over without explanation, it challenges that understanding. It creates a small pocket of unpredictability in an otherwise familiar environment. And even when the smell isn't present, the memory of it remains. You know that at any moment it could return, just as it has before. That knowledge lingers quietly in the background, shaping how you experience that space. Because it's not just about the scent anymore. It's about the pattern, the repetition, and the feeling that something in your environment is behaving in a way you can't fully explain.